Hi, I'm Katie, and this is episode 49 of Ornamentations, which is going to have all kinds of great stitchy stuff because today I have a kit release for the summer Flosstube kit, Stacy Nash's Big Blue House Pinkeep drum. I have a couple of finishes to share with you, one amazingly tiny and fabulous, also some whip progress, and just some general stitchy chat. But we'll start today with the kit release that is now live on my website, and that is my stitch of Stacy Nash's Big Blue House Pinkeep drum. You've seen this finish before, but the kit is now available, and I'll give you a few of the details here. This is the chart, which is not included. You have to provide the chart yourself, but pretty much everything except the chart and the decorative ribbon are a part of the kit. The details on the Big Blue House, the kit is $82, which is available now and includes everything, as I said, except the chart and the ribbon used, although I do provide information about what ribbon I used, where you can purchase this, and other alternatives as part of the included supplemental materials on the kits. For the kit, you have a very large cut of Himalayan fog 38 count legacy linen, which is enough to work the top, the bottom, and the sides of the drum with generous margins, as well as a small cut of 37 count wild honey, which is what I used for the strawberry. You can of course stitch the strawberry on the same fabric that you use for the drum, but using a tonal linen means you don't have to stitch both front and back. I'm lazy, I hate block stitching, so I thought that was a plus. So that's the linen, and then let's look at the threads. There are 9 threads for Big Blue House Pinkeep drum. There is 1 swat of Paris here, which is the blue. The rest are a mix of Goblins and 103. This is a really versatile color palette. So right here, you've got spring or Valentine's, and then you've got some wonderful colors in here that could also be spring. They can be summer, as seen on the drum, and then filled out with a good range of neutrals. You always need lots of good neutrals in a stash, especially browns, which are just, you know, versatile and necessary. As I mentioned in the last episode, there has been a dial-up change on the brown. Your brown is a little more vibrant than the one that I stitched with, but that'll actually help the details pop out on the house a little more. So it should look absolutely wonderful, but I just wanted to let you know so nobody's surprised. And then this is the kit. So threads, linen, beads that were used to embellish the strawberry, and then all details, photograph, a written guide to the conversion, and then an included template. Since I used a different count of linen and a slightly different finishing method, all that's covered in the kit materials, I drew up a template so that you can guide your finishing on this exact stitch. So, and the strawberries just all over the place, but oh, it's beautiful. I really enjoyed this. I love what the vibrant silks and this gorgeous, gorgeous ground bring to this piece. It really is a beautiful one. And then a couple notes. There has been a major increase in the number of stocked kits. I know there was some disappointment with the limited number of kits on Tulip Festival. I heard you. And so there's been a very large increase. I hope we're not looking at a like super fast sellout. However, if that does happen, I will be able to take pre-orders. Not an unlimited amount of pre-orders. There's a cap on that based on thread availability, but I will be able to take pre-orders this time. So hopefully everybody who wants a kit will be able to get one. Again, those are on my website, and then if stocked kits sell out, I will take pre-orders either until I hit the cap or for a period of 2 weeks, whichever comes first. So that's Big Blue House Pinkeep drum. I really enjoyed this stitch. I know I say that every time, you know, that I just love the colors used and I love the stitch, but that's what makes me do a kit for, you know, a particular stitch, is that when I really do enjoy it that much, that's what pushes it out over into kid territory. So Big Blue House Pinkeep drum, now available on my website, linked in the description. I hope you enjoy this fabulous piece as much as I have. And just a note on the colors, and this is not as much about the kit just as it is about building a silk stash and how you can use it. So these are all colors that are designed to go together, and that applies to Big Blue House Pinkeep drum, but it can also apply to stitching other projects. So Carolyn of the Curious Crafters has been wonderful at doing this, at taking out colors that she's purchased from me that have been picked to go together and then using them on different projects, which is one of the things I hope you'll do in building a silk stash. And I do have an example of that today. So this is something I myself hope to stitch, which is Scattered Seed Samplers Gathering Together Pinkeep. And if you look at that, you need 2 greens, you need a gray, you need a dark gray, you need a nice blue. You've got all of that here, except for the dark gray. And I have had any number of those in past kits, not to mention there are a ton in the 103 line. So you'd have all but one color to do another beautiful small. This I want to do on Wayfarer's Cloak. I think that would just be absolutely gorgeous. Maybe fall, we'll see when I get to this. But so that's just one example of something else that you could do with your thread pack. These are 50-meter spools, with the exception of the Paris, which is a 5-meter spool, although that's a 6-stranded silk, so you still get quite a lot of thread. For a small stitch like Big Blue House or the Scattered Seeds piece or any of the smalls I've done in the past, you don't need an entire spool, so you can easily pull these out, work another small, and make best use of your silk, because silks are expensive. There's no need to buy a new spool for every single project. Put your stash to work for you, which is certainly what I do. And then, oh my gosh, okay, so big news, which I think a lot of you have already heard if you follow the Attic, watch their Flosstube, or read their newsletter. I will be teaching at summer school this year. I'm incredibly excited. My mom's going to come with me as my helper, and we're both really excited to go to summer school for the first time. I have been working hard on kits, so there may be a little less stitching in evidence over the next little bit, just between the rush of summer kits, preparations for summer school. But I'm so excited. I hope some of you will be attending, and I really look forward to meeting you. I can't tell you how incredibly excited I am. If you're not coming to summer school and don't have the opportunity to meet me and my mom is actually going to be on a Flosstube pretty soon. I don't think the next one, she's going to be out of town, but probably the one after that, she'll join me again and show a recent finish that she had. And then her most recent start, I just helped her with a new silk conversion, and she's ordered all the threads and is looking forward to starting. So that's just a little fun news item, although it's probably not news to a lot of you, because yeah, oh, is that exciting or what? I really am just so thrilled. But for today, finishes, I have a finish, and it's even topical to the attic. Is that a great transition or what? I'm so proud of myself. So my finish, this is actually a start and a finish, because I hadn't started this last time I saw you. This is a project that Laura and I picked out together at the attic. She started it first, but I unsurprisingly finished it first, and this is Plum Street Samplers Cereal Bowl Collection Sampler Lesson 1, Make Use of Present Time, which I told you last episode I was going to stitch on Legacy Linen 5363 waffle cone, and I did. Is that so small or what? I love it. I am getting legitimately addicted to high count stitching, and oh, I just enjoyed this piece so much. I could not put it down. I actually finished and blocked it. I don't know if you can see the pinholes in there. That's from the blocking. So this is already blocked and ready for finishing, but I didn't do the final finishing on this so that I could show you the back. I was reasonably virtuous on this and did the pin stitch quite a lot all on the letters. Some of you wanted to know about carrying because I do not carry my threads. I will take them behind stitching, like weaving it in behind stitches as seen on the two berries right there, if there's covering stitching on the back. Otherwise, I start and stop for every individual letter element. It's one reason why I hate stitching letters so much. And I did start with the pin stitch for most of this so you can get a good look at what the back of one of my pieces looks like. So this is Plum Street Samplers Make Use of Present Time. And like I said, I really hate stitching letters, so normally I would have left that out. However, those are words to live by, so they went in. I'm going to have this finished and out in a little stitching tray, just as a reminder to myself. I do always try to make use of present time, but never hurts to have that around as a prod. So I did make a couple of changes. As you can see, I ended up just flipping this tree and then mirroring it right there rather than having the bird, which I felt was a little out of scale. And then I put my initials instead of the framed ABC at the top. I took those from the alphabet on Modern Folk Embroidery's Home Sweet Home because those were over 2 letters that were stylistically consistent with the rest of the design. And then of course I did make some color changes. So as you can see, I've got 2 browns here. Laura and I discussed this at the attic. So in the house, there's 3 colors of bricks. One of them is the flesh tone that's used in the person. And that's very consistent with real brick, but I thought it was a little, I wasn't as huge on that. And then the mortar is the dark red. So I proposed adding in a second brown, which was used for the mortar, and then using 3 pinky reds. These are my threads. Sorry about all the glare. So this is my lighter brown, darker brown, and then I've got 3 pinks to reds here. I'll talk a little more bit about the color conversion in just a second. So those were my changes to the house. And then as I started looking at this, I thought I might also like to do the tree trunks in that lighter brown as well. I thought the darker brown was just very, I mean, it pops. So that's very much a personal preference thing, whether or not you like that look. You could use either. I will post the conversion in the description, and this was kind of a funny story, just the journey of a conversion. So I started doing this with the brown mortar on the house, and then I moved over to the tree doing the trunks and the leaves, and at that point I started filling in with the pinks. So until then I just had these really lovely pale colors with the kind of gray content. That would be the green and the light brown, and they just looked so lovely and understated on the waffle cone. I was absolutely in love. And then I started putting in the pinks, which are quite bright, and I was thinking, oh my gosh, that's so much pink. I don't really like pink this much. What was I thinking choosing these colors? And I was also thinking that the mortar on the house wasn't working so well, like the brown, the pink, that wasn't really great. And then I capped it off with the dark brown, and somehow that just brought it all together. The moral of this long and rambling story is that it can be very hard to evaluate your color choices in isolation. Sometimes you need to be looking at a complete piece for all the elements to come together before you can really figure out, you know, how things are working. Because there were a couple points on this where I really thought I didn't like my choices, but when it was done, I really did. So then the color conversion, I did have a couple changes to talk about. So there are 2 different flesh tones here. There is a light version of this conversion and a dark version. Laura is stitching on weeks 56 count linen, which is a very light color. So she's got Soie Surfine Blanc, whereas I used Creme, which still shows up very white, but Blanc would be very, very harsh on my darker linen here. And then she's got a lighter skin tone. I actually purchased the same surfine. That's this one right here, but that just showed up pure white on the waffle cone as well. So I switched to a slightly more fleshy one from Stash. So I'll post the light version of the conversion and the dark version of the conversion labeled in the description, but the only two colors that are different between them are your skin tone and your white. So these are the threads, and that was really fun. I really enjoyed this. So Plum Street Samplers Cereal Bowl Collection, Sampler Lesson 1. This is my fabulous tiny finish. And oh yes, one more thing, waffle cone. So a waffle cone is a 5363 count, which is an uneven weave, and that means that your stitch takes a rectangular form. I'm going to review the video and see how clearly this shows. If it doesn't, I may insert some photos, but your rectangle can go this way or it can go that way. I always do a few test stitches to make sure I've got it in the correct orientation before I really start in earnest, and I do recommend that. You should be able to visualize it from looking at the weave, but it's always a good idea to test because I've certainly made mistakes before. So people have asked about what the uneven weave does to the design, and the thing is, it does actually stretch it a little bit in one direction or another. So right there is Plum Street Samplers My Early Days, which is on 5363 Sicilian Marzipan. My finish is a rectangle, the original is a square, so I just had to decide in orienting my stitches whether I wanted it to be a rectangle going this way or that way. In this one, because this was already oblong, I wanted my rectangle to go this way to pull it in a little bit, although that did stretch it upwards slightly. I hope that makes sense. That may not make sense. The thing is, this is actually very natural, particularly on sampler stitching, because for most of human history, weaves were not perfectly even. A perfectly even number of warp and weft threads, which is what an even weave is a invention of modern manufacturing capabilities. So before the Industrial Revolution, when linen was hand woven and the looms were also set up by hand, a perfectly even number of warp and weft threads wasn't really a thing. So if you look very closely at the weaves on most original samplers, they're not perfectly even. So this, the rectangular cross stitch, would have been perfectly familiar to most stitchers from that era. So it's actually quite an interesting little wrinkle. So some people did express interest in what does that do to the stitches. The thing is, nothing that most stitchers throughout history wouldn't recognize because they contended with these issues themselves. Actually, they probably didn't recognize them as issues because they were so familiar with that being the norm on their linen. And then the last thing on 5363. So I told you about my little blackbird finish last time, which was on 56 count weeks linen. This is the color that Laura is stitching this piece on. And the number of mistakes I made on here. Nothing that prevents this from being an adorable tiny finish, but I was making some more mistakes than I usually do in stitching. I thought that was just adjusting to the higher count linen. And then I whipped this out, and I've got a couple of tiny flubs on here, but not very much. And I'll tell you something else. I was going a lot faster. I think 5363 is easier than 56, and I cannot think of a rational explanation for why that should be the case. Is it easier for our brain to visualize the structure of the rectangle and seeing the weave and placing your stitches? Because the weave in one direction is smaller, it should not be easier, and yet somehow I had a much easier time with 5363 than I did with 56. And I was talking to Susan Stanley about this because she was also just stitching on waffle cone herself, and she said the same thing, totally unprompted. So I was like, okay, I'm not totally nutty, but I kind of feel like I'm nutty because I cannot think of an explanation. So I'm kicking this out to the commentariat. Tell me, have you stitched on both 56 count and 5363? Have you found one or the other easier? Or do you have a theory as to why that is? Because that's definitely my experience. but I definitely can't think of a reason why. So I think all of that was probably just an excuse for me to hold up my fabulous tiny stitch for like 10 minutes and babble. I'm so proud of it. And I am just, oh yeah, I'm definitely addicted to the super tiny stitching. It is so fun. Look at that. Okay, so I'm gonna, again, compared to the size of a standard spool. Amazing. The charm of the miniature. And then next, WIP progress. I do have another small finish, but it's not a cross stitch finish, so we'll get to that in a minute. Continuing progress on Plum Street samplers this happy morning, which I am making some changes to honor my mom's family farm. See episode 45 for a full discussion on that. And then this is my progress. Not as much as I would like. I have been kitting and cutting so much fabric, but I did finish the lighter red stitching on the barn, so you can see the full structure there. And then I've picked my gray and started filling in the roof, although, oh gosh, when you look at it like that, you can see, oh, just how much roof there is left there. But it's looking great. And then I also had an idea after watching Curious Crafters. So Carolyn has been stitching salt boxes. She stitched the spring salt boxes from Plum Street Samplers and finished it flat with the Polaroid frame stitching in a little Polaroid frame, displayed it in a little Polaroid frame stand. It was so charming. So of course I went scurrying to my stash and was like, oh, I want to stitch the salt boxes. And I pulled out summer salt boxes, and then I noticed something very interesting. Look at that little horse there. That guy could be Tony the Pony. So I whipped up in the chart, and yeah, actually I can drop him right into the side there in place of the little flower-eating deer. So that's an already charted Tony the Pony right there. I'm loving it. And also I am going to stitch somersault boxes because this is great. So I also wanted to finish the lighter red on the barn because I have had an idea about the reds. I wanted to see if you could get through the whole barn comfortably with one spool. I think the answer to that is a definite yes, because I've finished the lighter red stitching and I've still got plenty of silk on my spool. So on the chart, it calls for 2 skeins of this color. This, of course, is my substitute for my original conversion. And again, I think this is going to be a kit, so I'm not sharing details on the conversion. Those will be exclusive to the kit. And we talked a couple episodes ago about needing a lot of separation between the reds on the barn so that the pattern would show. However, it occurred to me that the only place you need that is in the barn. So you could split the reds and have your lighter red be a different color that's doing something else in the border and the quilt star and the other details. So I think I'm actually going to do a split conversion on the lighter red. I have some ideas about that. But before I get to that, I do really want to try and finish that barn because that and the grass are the really monster stitching things on this. So hope for next time more progress on the barn. It does look great though. Those vibrant colors just are gorgeous. I love the design, but I love it even more with all of that vibrant rich color. And then these are my threads in my Live and Stew folio. I'm hoping to nab one for my mom in their next release, get her all fitted out for summer school. So excited. And then, oh, okay, progress. So, cedar waxwing by Not Forgotten Farm. I had a very small start on this at the attic, but I said that after I finished my sampler roll lessons, I was going to get back to it. And I did, although I don't have quite as much progress as I'd hoped for. I've done most of the fill-in on the basket. I need to do the framing stitching. And then I started picking a color for the orange. Okay, and this is so interesting. So I'm looking at this on camera, and the difference in brightness between those two colors isn't twinging me at all. It kind of was in person. I was wondering if I was going to have to change that, or if that orange, which is noticeably brighter, would settle down once I got the framing greenery in there. Again, like I said, very, very hard to evaluate color choices in isolation. Sometimes you just have to have faith in yourself and move forward. So we'll see how that goes. That may not be the final color I pick on the orange. These are all of the threads that I'm thinking about. And a nice, fabulous little, oh my God, aren't those beautiful? So that's what I'm thinking about for the greenery there. This is... that bright color right there is the orange. So I will be working hot foot on this one, and I might even push towards a finish for the next Flosstube. The basket was the biggest chunk of stitching on there, so I am hopeful that I should have good progress, if not a finish, to show you next time. And also I realized I had such a goof on this. So I cut the linen quite close so that it would fit in my smallest project bag, which I took with me to the attic. I knew I wanted to start this. And then I left this gigantic margin at the bottom. What was I thinking? Well, I know what I was thinking. I was chatting and not thinking when I was starting that means that, oh, that's gonna get so tight at the top. I measured and I should just about make it, but it's gonna be really close. Like close to the point where I shaved a row off the basket, and I might have to have the greenery in the bird's mouth arcing downwards instead of upwards. That was so dumb. Ah, next time, start before you go so that you don't get so distracted by all of your chitty chat that you go and start your basket like a third of the way up your very small cut of linen. That was so dumb. That was incredibly stupid. So this is on 38 count filbert. It's the same color as 5363 waffle cone from Legacy Linen, my new favorite color of linen. I love how these like kind of browny orangey colors look on it. It's fabulous. I will share the full conversion for Cedar Waxwing once I have it, which I hope will be in the next episode. Oh, I think this is gonna look amazing. So Cedar Waxwing, and this lives in my smallest project bag. This is actually the first one I made from a pair of my old pajamas. I always have pajamas that my mom makes me of Liberty of London Tanalon, which you know if you've watched me for a long time, but there are a lot of new subscribers around here. Welcome. So this project bag was made by me from old pajamas, and this fob, Herman the Hedgehog, is from Fern Ridge Collections. And this remains actually my favorite project bag because of how bodacious the bling on it is. But that actually brings me to my other finish for today, which is a project bag. I showed you I had ordered Rifle Paper Company's peacock fabric. I'll link it in the description. And then I wanted to make a project bag out of it, so I just did. You know, project bags are not particularly time consuming. I used Elizabeth Ann's Stitches pattern and tutorial, which again I'll link. I sort of tried to fussy cut the print. I'm not a quilter, so that didn't work very well. And I also did something very, very stupid. So my zipper was too big. It was just something I had in stash. I put it in, I cut it down at the sides, but that was before I put the side seams in. So I was just closing the zipper, and then I pulled the zip right off. Thankfully, all I had to do was ask Google how to get a zipper pull back on. You had zipped right off your zipper. And Google had an answer for me, but I didn't make a very good job of it, and I ended up misaligning my prints, which were perfectly aligned. They weren't meeting up perfectly, but they were in the same, orientation before I pulled the zipper right off. Oh man, that was really something. But it's not so far off that it's really distracting, so I'm gonna give that a win. And then I am going to make some bag bling for this because you know how I am about sparkle. Also, the other thing I realized about this, it matches my little Kiana case really well. So I use a Kiana jewelry case to hold just my essential stitching, spools, scissors, needle minder, needles, etc. And then I also have a slightly larger one, and this holds all my essentials if I'm stitching on the go. So that would be glasses, hoop, and light. And oh look, now I've got a bag to match. I think this is gonna come to summer school with me. So yes, bag bling. I am having a color quandary. Maybe you can help me. So I did start the peyote stitch section of a fob in a pink. So it's actually, well, I've got two bags that need bling. I have my Katie from Lou and Sue, and I was originally thinking that that needed a bodacious pink fob. And then I was looking at this thinking that you might actually want a pink fob for this guy to highlight the accent pink flowers. I had originally thought that I would want to do a fabulous kind of lovely greeny blue. I did order plenty of crystals for both, so I think I'm gonna make a pink fob and a blue fob, and next time we can just have like a beauty contest as to what looks best on which. But feel free to vote in comments what you think would look best on my rifle peacock bag. Oh, I do love this print. Isn't that beautiful? Love the colors. You know me, I love Rifle Paper Company. So then, oh, okay. So also on summer conversions, because Stacy Nash Big Blue House Pinkeep drum was the summer Flosstube kit, early summer Flosstube kit. There will still be the Christmas in July, which is Santa Stops Here behind me, seen in the last episode as well. And that displaced my original pick, which was Brenda Gervais, My Home Sweet Home, one of her Nashville Market releases. However, I am working on a conversion on this, and I will release that in the next episode as a thank you to all of you, and hopefully you will enjoy stitching on that. My linen recommendations are definitely Himalayan Fog or Cloister Cream, both from Legacy Linen. We did have a conversation about this. Oh, I think that was like back in April. It was a while ago. And so I will be sharing the full conversion in the next episode. My next episode is my 50th episode, half century mark. That's amazing. So conversion for My Home Sweet Home as a thank you to you all. I don't think I'm actually going to get to stitch it myself, at least this year, just with the rush of work on kits and summer school and all of that, but I will definitely do a conversion that'll be shared in the next episode as a thank you to my wonderful viewers, since there was a great deal of interest in stitching this with the Katie Silk conversion. So that's definitely coming, and I'll have that for you next time, since I know a lot of people are full into summer stitching. So with that, I think that's about all that I have for today. Final reminder, the kits for Stacy Nash Big Blue House Pinkeep drum, as seen here, are currently available on my website. Stocked kits will ship immediately, and then I will take pre-orders, which should ship within a few weeks. It won't be crazy long. And then next time. So for next time, 50th episode, can you believe it? Channel has come a very long way, and I owe all of that to you. So thank you so much for watching, for liking, for subscribing, for commenting, and for next time we'll have the conversion for My Home Sweet Home, as I just mentioned. I'll have my FFO of cereal sampler bowl, and I do have an idea for a display for this. I'll be sharing that with you as well. I'll have some finished bag bling, which I can't wait to share. I ordered way too many crystals because I just want to have so much fun with ludicrous fringe. And I'll link which fob this is in the description if you'd like to make one of your own. At this point, I've just gone for plain peyote stitch and then crazy fringe and doing my own. But if that's a little much, you can also just buy kits, which have complete instructions from Ridge Collections. So bag bling. And then hopefully lots of progress on Cedar Waxwing, which I think is going to be an absolutely stunning stitch. So I'll see you again in 2 weeks, and until then, happy stitching.